you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah. Come on.
With Uni, what we're doing, building our brand ambassador team, like these guys are so excited about it. Like the guys I'm talking to, I'm like, why are you so excited about this? It's because they have money, but they have nothing to do with it, and they have nothing to do like anymore. Like if they don't have families.
Well, you get, I guess, like a similar parallel to where you get like these doctors that are so interested in placing money is because they've made decent money for 17 years, but they've been on call. They have no life.
Bent over a chair for 10 years with no one to talk to.
Yeah. And like their families are going on trips without them. They make good enough money, but they don't have any free time to spend it. And so now finally they get to like be involved in something. And so they're so curious on how the investment's going to work or where they go. Alex introduced me to somebody. He's just someone who wanted me to meet, and he said that you guys met, and it like he was excited about it.
Yeah, I've met with 20 people in the last year.
Yeah.
I have not yet presented 50% or less of the information to them where they haven't wanted to write me a check on the spot, and we don't need money. It's the weirdest thing. It's a blessing for sure. Yeah, it's $1 billion deal, 100%. Like I'd put my life on that, and it's just because it checks every single box.
Yeah.
Every single box.
Well, when I look at it, it's like it's minimally just like a, I don't know, $25 million revenue company if you just
Today
hang out in Arizona.
No, today
just don't do anything.
With pending contracts I have $50 million waiting.
Yeah.
Literally today.
And so fulfillment?
No, I just won't put them on until the software is done.
Yeah.
Because it's all.
Is that fulfillment related though?
Somewhat. Fulfillment's easy. It's basically the logistics of them managing their inventory more than it is fulfilling it. It's basically understanding what their employees need, how they need it, where they need it, and basically that ongoing. It's like a perpetual evergreen demand that we need for products, supplies, and uniforms on the daily, weekly, hourly.
Yeah.
And that's what the software can do that no one's ever been able to do. That's why I think we could get a $50 to $100 million pre-revenue valuation today just because of our software. If I download our software for VCs that are like smart, like good, like it's probably $100 million deal already. So I think I made more money in the last 3 months than I've made my entire life just by what I've built on the tech side.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
And you're just speaking like from a valuation standpoint.
Yes. You can't see the software and understand it and like not have your mind blown on what it can do.
Yeah.
And the most basics of just think any item that a business needs to have inventory of, needs to transport, needs to have analytics on, needs to custom design, and needs some sort of a reoccurring regular need. Having a software that can manage and facilitate the logistics of that for businesses. It's never been done before like this. So it's more than just like, we basically fly under the radar as a uniform supply company. We're $1 billion tech company. And it's basically everything I've learned for the last 15 years of what I need, why I need it, from a business owner. So I'm a dumb guy. Like I just understand very basic, things. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I understand like there's so many, it's so logical to me. And then I can take the logic and the necessities that I've needed in, the little businesses that I've run for the last 15 years and be like, dude, this is just, it's a software that handles everything. And the uniform's the greatest way in everywhere because it's like everyone needs it.
Well, it's your shiny object because you're going to brand it in a way that is going to be a
Yes.
clear upgrade for what they're used to.
And I can design a uniform better than anyone in the world, humbly, like, that as my brother. Like, so it's like, why not? That gets me in any door.
Yeah.
So and then obviously we're really, really good at manufacturing now too. So it's like, we can make anything.
Where did you find the software engineers?
Couple recommendations. We just shopped out some of the top shops that we saw of companies that like software that we liked. We got a couple recommendations, and then basically an old friend that had worked with one of these shops. He does more of that wireframe design. He's like, dude, the shop's killing it. Showed us some of the work that they've done, and it was a no-brainer. Because obviously I want all my designs. I feel like the culture effect from the software effect, like how you dictate the software, actually to me, it dictates the subconscious, a part of conditioning of culture. And so I care a lot about how the software is designed and how it feels and how it looks, because I actually think that affects the way that the employee thinks and reacts to the business, which affects how they interact with the end user, right? And so it's important to me that everything is pixel perfect, exactly how I dream it up and I design it. Because usually the biggest failure is like designer will get involved, or an entrepreneur or a tech startup will get involved and have these concepts, but they never actually function and move and look like they thought it was going to be. And so then it actually has a completely different effect. And that's why I feel like a lot of softwares die just because of that too. Versus like they just never actually, it never comes to fruition what they were intended to do, and then they never function, look, and move like they were dreamt up to be.
Yeah. I think that one of your greatest gifts that has brought you success and is going to continue to propel on where you're going is that it's really hard to see like what you are from a value add. You know, you spend time with you and it's like, man, this guy can sell anything. Like, he's clearly the sales guy. Like, you're the sales guy. And then, you know, you have like, oh no, wait, he's the innovator. Like, he can come up with any concept and bring it to life, and he can dream, and he can bring a concept to life and get people on board. And it's like, okay, is that innovation and sales? But for me, knowing you since we were 8 years old, I've always viewed you as a creative. Like, you're an artist. And it's crazy that, you know, that you've been able to bring all these worlds together, because I think oftentimes when I think of a creative, they would be like, just like you gave that example, they're not the ones that have the vision for the business operation side or the fulfillment or what the real need is. And you went and started companies and ran them for 15 years. And so now you understand this. And I don't know, there's just I haven't met anyone that has as much experience in as many different fields that are so important to scaling companies as I have with you.
Yeah, man, I think that's one of the things I wanted to, talk about to help people. I mean, that's why I think I hate podcasts and coming on podcasts and doing this. Like, this is the last thing that I want to do, because I feel like so much of the world are we live? We're live?
Yeah.
Cool. I just really wanted to, like, it's so much self-promotion. And then I see so much too little of people self-promoting on things that you couldn't duplicate. So it adds no value. So that's, and I fall into that, because you just gave me one of the greatest compliments I've ever received, and I'm so thankful for it. So I do have many talents, and they're God-given talents. I wake up and I have them. I didn't develop even a lot of them. And the problem is there's so much self-promotion going on to where people are blessed with a talent and they go take that talent and they use that for fame, or they use that for, to try and, gain wealth or whatever it is. When I want to help people saying, okay, these are my talents that God gave me. I don't deserve them. I did nothing for them. But what's great about this is I understand the game and the philosophies of how I can take these things, leverage them into businesses and leverage them into wealth or helping giving back to people. My talents might be different than your talents, and our talents are very different, and you're finally figuring this out too. And that's why I love watching what you're doing, because you finally figured out what you're really good at. And now you've created a machine to leverage those talents, where I've learned that, yes, I am an artist. I'm really good at creative, but I'm like 1 degree away from being, on the beach in Newport trying to sell character pictures to people for $15. That's an artist. That's a creative. But I've learned that, like, I need to find out who I am and exactly what I'm good and what I'm great at. And so I can take that and leverage it. And so people, instead of me sitting here for, 4 hours and talking to people about how great of an artist I am, we need to help people get to finding out who they are, their identity, so that they can leverage it and so that they can then become a millionaire or billionaire or whatever it is, is their vision. And so you perfectly summarize, I figured that out. And I can, we can stop. I'd love to give a little bit of the story of that journey, because it took me a really long time. It took you quite a long time. I got lucky. I fell into like a very lucrative, great opportunity at an earlier age where I was actually leveraging my talents and letting my skill sets flourish. And it took you maybe a little bit further to find out your talents. But I mean, one big takeaway from today, if anyone's, going to watch this or listen to it, is like, we have to take away those insecurities. We have to take away all of those fears and being able to strip back who we are, find out your talents, and then find a way to leverage those talents to help the world, to grow businesses, to bless your family, to build and grow and nurture relationships, but bet on your talents. And it's a process to get there, dude. It's like, it took me a really long time to realize I suck ass at running teams and operations. I'm not an operator, but I am phenomenal at creating ideas and concepts, and creating strategies and business concepts or ideas or products, and then passing those on to people who are better at it. Yeah. And so that took me a really long time to figure out. So
why would somebody like you, that I believe you can plop down anywhere in the world and, start to add value to whatever room you're in, why wouldn't you just figure out how to be an operator? Like I believe that you could figure it out. Is it it doesn't hold your interests? Is it a scale of, hey, that's not where I bring the most value? Like, yeah, I could figure it out, but there's people that live, breathe, love operations. Like, let them bring that to the table and let me go be the creative that I am. And that's where the combination of the two could get really deadly. Like, where was the struggle in spending time around operations rather, like, even giving it an at bat? Like, was it a necessity to get the company up and going? Or tell me where that process where you felt, all right, I'm out on operations.
Well, 2 or 3 things. Number one, insecure entrepreneurs have fear of not having their hands on everything. And I see it all the time. They just have this, like, oh, if it is to be, it's up to me. Yeah, it is to some extent, but it doesn't mean your hands need to be all over it. And so the biggest mistake that I see is that they're so insecure. They're either like, I'm super OCD. I'm a perfectionist too, very similar to you. We have ways that we want things to be, and that's important. But at the end of the day, they think that if they are controlling all aspects, let's just break it down to marketing, operations, like HR, and basically like finance. So it's just some of the generic things of business. They think that if they're not like literally living in all 4 of those sectors with their hands and fingerprints all over them, that they're going to fail, and so they're insecure about it. So it comes back to the same philosophy of what is it, like, master of whatever, I'm nothing, like whatever the saying is. Like,
yeah, jack of all, master of none.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So what they're doing is they're taking their greatest they're taking their time, which is one of the greatest resources, and they're just really spreading it across those 4 or 5 buckets. And so they're not able to actually be great at anything. And that's the entrepreneur that we see every single day. $1 million business, $500,000 business, and that's all it's ever going to be, because they're taking their resources and spreading them thin. I'm the biggest. I mean, I wrote the book on this. I sprayed pest control literally with my own bare hands and a freaking pest control truck and a gun for 5 years, 3 to 5 years, whatever it was. Like, talk about a waste of time and resources. And I'm not saying I'm anything great. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying I'm better than a tech. I'm better than a spray tech. Like, those are some of the greatest people in the world. But my talents, my resources are not pulling triggers. My talents are very different than pulling a trigger.
You called it an insecurity. I thought it was overconfidence. Like, I thought it was like almost like a borderline arrogance. Like, I'm the best. I have the Midas touch. And so I need to be involved in every one of these sectors or else. But that's an interesting...
To me, I see it as both. You could be overconfident where if I'm not involved, it's not going to work. Or you can also see it as like, I'm insecure. I feel like more people operate in fear than they do in confidence, believe it or not. And so they're fearful that it's going to fail if they're not involved, and a lot of insecurity. Like I had a lot of like I had partners, great people in 6 or 7 service companies. And it was almost like, hey, if they weren't in the room and if I'm getting left out of it, like, then like, oh, it's like, it's not going to be as good, or it's my business, I deserve to be in that. It's like, no, what makes a business great is, say those 4 or 5, departments that I just named. If we take our resources and we take our talents, we leverage ourselves, we empower teams, and we make those 5 departments as great as possible. And then CC me on the email so I can catch up, when I'm dropping a dookie or on a flight, right? But that's what we want, right? Let's be honest. Like, I don't need to be 2 hours in the finance meeting doing it. So I could rant about this for 5 hours. So, but to me, it's insecurities. Like set the policy, build the business model, and then empower the greatest people to run that department. Like it's have confidence in people, and then let the machine run, let it play out. Have your KPIs, have your trackers, have your financial meetings, have all your detail, and then analyze it with fact. Take emotion. I'm an emotional dude. Take my opinion out of it. Take my emotion out of it. Take my perspective out of it, and convert it to data that we can then analyze and review. It's not about your idea or my idea or your opinion or who you think you are, or that you think you're the next freaking, Gary Vee or whoever it is. It's like, what are you producing? Show me the analytics. And that's another cool thing, is I've learned, I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I'm an emotional guy. That doesn't mean shit if it doesn't produce numbers. So there's always a way to check things. There's always a way to pull it back to data and analytics, and then go be great with it. Go improve it. Go tune it, right?
Yeah, you said something about discovering who people are, and if you could bring a service to the world that would help people discover where their true talents are, and then go build something out of it rather than seeing an opportunity and trying to adapt to it. What I heard from you is that you would encourage people to see what are your true strengths, having that real look in the mirror on where your skills are and where you might lack or not be as talented elsewhere, and really leaning into where your talents are. I remember going to your house.
Love more backstories, please. I love it. Tell me about it.
In 2nd grade.
Okay.
And can Dusty play? Oh, he's got an art lesson. It's like, oh, an art lesson? Like, we already had art today. Like, we already were at Miss Richardson's art class today. And you bring out this horse that you're drawing. And I looked at it and I thought,
I need to gift you this horse because you always talk about it.
It's unreal. I remember it vividly. And this is almost 30 years ago. And I looked at that horse and I thought, yeah, his art teacher must have drawn that. And you I don't know if there was a deadline on it, but you were working on the horse before you left to your art class. And I just remember thinking I think I would have to take art lessons for 10 years to be able to draw a horse that well. And I felt like I'm reasonably talented. I feel like my handwriting is neater than most. Or if we would draw NBA logos as a kid, or whatever we would draw, Stussy's and Jinko characters, whatever we were drawing as kids. But I felt like I was marginally talented.
It's a lot of talent to draw Stussy.
Hey, stop. But I looked at that and I was like, a pretty confident kid growing up. I looked at that and thought, I can't do that. I don't have that ability to do that. So you mentioned God-given talent. How did you start to discover that you are in a different league from having something in your mind and being able to bring it to life, whether that was drawing or, vision or whatever it was?
Yeah. So, I guess going back real quick, I want to answer your question, but it's there's 5 things that I figured out online. I'm writing a book actually. So it's called the Billionaire Branded Bugman. And it's basically me telling the story, what we're talking about today, and a lot of things. But in a lot of it, one of the chapters, there's 5 things that I want to give to people that want to become a millionaire or looking into doing a startup. And what's crazy is we've already talked, we've talked a lot about one, and it's basically about, knowing your weaknesses. Yeah. Is one of the biggest things, because you're very close to one of my first partners, Cameron, super talented guy, great operator, phenomenal dude. I literally couldn't have gotten to where I am without him, and we got lucky to where we both played on a lot of our strengths. And so that's actually one of the key things in the chapter is understanding that. Another one that we're talking about is like know thyself is huge. And in answering your question, I think it's twofold. I was built different. I knew like a confidence or an arrogance about me that was just, I was confident that I could figure anything out. And I just realized that, to where it was almost like my whole life I just got, oh, you're so prideful. I'm just like, no, I just really believe that I can do this. It was just a self-belief that came naturally. And as I'm raising kids, and I'm wanting them to be as successful as they can, I'm trying to dissect still to today, to this morning at tennis at 5:30 a.m. with the girls, is like, was that something that I did to create that, or is that a product of conditioning, of environment, or where did that come from that I always believed in myself? Or was there something that it was just natural born with? So I'm trying to figure out that part of it, because I feel like that's a lot of, and you're a lot like that. And that's why I think we've been best friends. Like, me and you get in a room, we're going to figure it out. And like, I don't care if it's a poker game or, or dunk basketball or, building $1 billion business. If me and you are in the room, we're not going to ever not bet against each other. We're going to find a way to get it done. So there's that, which I think is that grit and that confidence. Just, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I got it. But I knew I was built different from that, because I would just see people drop out of things, or people quit on things, or excuses to be made. And I always just I knew dude, I'm never going to be the guy to do that. I'm not going to be the guy to make an excuse. I'm going to be the guy to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so I started to realize, like, even at sports at 8, 9, 10, and then creative, and then art, and then just like life, you start to learn like, wow, like I'm built a little different. So it was a process of that. The second side of the coin for me.
Before you go to the second coin, I remember many instances like going to practices or like showing up to your house, and your dad was like, for me looking at it, I would look at it sometimes like, oh dang, like, is Dusty in trouble or is he not? But looking at it now, like, he pushed on you. Yeah, it almost looked like it was like an experiment, like how much can this kid handle? But like, he would push on you, and I just remember thinking sometimes like, dang, like, that would suck. But to see like what it created after you finishing it like instilled confidence in me. Like, oh, cool, I'm gonna go get my pads real quick. Hold on, D, I'll be right back. Like, let me go get my pads. Like, do you think that that's some of like having somebody that I don't know. With Tom, I just looked at it like there was no quitting. Like, there was no option for quitting. Like, he was going to push on you. And if you did something, like, you do it right. Like, if you're going to spend your time on something, do it right. I'm watching you. That was not right to me. Do it again.
Yeah, I think parenting and in your support system, I mean, that's huge. You can't deny that at any level. Yeah, he established the expectation very young, like, execute and you're not going to quit. I see it with Rome, like with your son. It's like, it also, like, the human being has to be built for it. Like, we're running hills last week in San Clemente, and like, it's like, I told him I joined the 1,000 pound club, right? And it's like, that struck a chord with him. And it's like, then I saw the dude doing push-ups and sit-ups for literally 3 hours after. And I'm like, that kid's built different.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's a hybrid of everything. You need the support system. You need to be built that way, because you can only push on certain people too far. And the people that you can push, like, everyone has a breaking point. It's crazy. I was watching the Olympics last night, and I'm like, they highlight this dude, and it's like, oh, he's run this, and he's gonna do. And the semifinals, I love watching. Kayla's like, turn this off. I only want to see the gold medal stuff, and I'm like, I want to see the semifinals because it's like to win those final two. It's very hard to win a semifinal race. And the dude, I'm not gonna name names. Not that they'll watch it, is this dude ran like a 53 or 52 this year at the World Champion, and you ended up like 55 and quitting in the 400. And I'm like, dude, how weak-minded are you, like that you can like not show up when it matters most? And to me, I'm just like, it bugs me when I see that. It's like, when it matters most, that's what makes people great, is you need to show up. And that's what I've always wanted to be known for, is like, hey, I might not get to that email, or I haven't texted you back in 3 weeks, but when things matter, I'm going to show up. And I think that's just like teaching our kids, teaching people, like there's certain people that show up and perform under those lights. And that's what it takes to be a millionaire. That's what it takes to be a billionaire. And so, I mean, I always just hung my hat on, like, I'm going to be the guy that's going to show up. Like, I want the ball with 10 seconds left. Give me the ball. I'm going to execute. Like, that's when it matters. Like, everyone can put this persona out of who they are on Instagram and pay for content and act like they're this and get on stage and talk about how good they are at business. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, it's really hard to find out who has grit until you're really thrown in that fire. And those are the people, those are that very few, it's less than 1% that you know that guy's going to show up. I mean, you posted recently on that dude in the mile, like, dude, come on. They didn't highlight that guy. They didn't talk about that guy. That last 100 was nothing but, like, you know, this. That's all it is. And so I think, like, being able to help people, once again, let's not talk about, oh, I have it, I've made $1 million. Like find ways to develop that. Like, put yourself in uncomfortable situations that make you want to literally, you know, like, whether it's cold plunging or whether it's like whatever it is, like, you have to get very uncomfortable. Like, they say it all the time, super cliche, become comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, but that's what business is it not? Like, it's like talking to a client today, like, or to a good close friend of mine on the way here. He's like, I got to fire a key employee. I'm losing sleep over it. It's like, it's super uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to be here talking about this right now. It's uncomfortable. I know it's good for me. I know it's good for you. So I'm here. Like, everything is uncomfortable. Like, I go out and, like, I know Uni will be $1 billion company. I know people literally will think I am a lunatic by coming on here and saying I will be a billionaire within 5 years because of Uni. It's uncomfortable to say it, but I have to put myself in the mindset that it's $1 billion play or it's a bust. That's uncomfortable to live in, to live in that world. But I'm I'm able to do it.
You say that, and you're referencing your newest venture, Uni. But this has been something you've always done.
It's an evolution of everything to this point, and that's why I'm so confident it's $1 billion play.
Well, you've just said things that most people would just think are, you're using the word uncomfortable. I'm going to use the word
like, inconceivable.
Dusty's inconceivable. Like, oh, he's such a dreamer. Like, he's dramatic. Like, there's no way. Like, how can everything be? And then fill in the blank, the eye roll. When, you know, someone hears billion comes out of it.
Give me all the eye rolls.
The eye roll, you know.
Heavy into eye rolls.
Where does that impact you when someone just kind of looks at you looks at you like, yeah, right.
I'm so comfortable at who I am. I am so comfortable, and it took a long time to get here to where I don't give a shit. I really don't. I'm sorry, I don't. There's a difference between giving a shit, and there's a difference between being a very respectful person who wants to add value and bless people's life and do people right. And I think it gets, like, he's a guy who doesn't care. He doesn't value people's opinions. I value everyone's opinion. I care what people think. I want to make people better. I want to leave people better. I've been known for not doing that in the past. And there's a difference of what you say about me and what, like, and my concepts and my ideas and my philosophies in this, the simulation, pretty much I could prove it to be, right? Business entrepreneurship's a simulation. It's the world you create. and just like there's nothing that the only way I let it affect me is it does add a little bit of fuel to the fire on little things. I'm just like and I like it. I enjoy it. I thrive in it. I've been counted out my entire life. I mean, I was rescued from a dumpster being adopted when I was not that extreme, but I was adopted. Okay, my mom I think she was 17 years old when she had me. So already I think starting life that way, it's like, my mom died when she was, my biological mother died, I think, when I was like 27. So I never got to meet her. Raised by a great family. Adopted family is incredible. So knowing like, hey, you're adopted, you could have been born to you were born to a 17-year-old single mom who ended up, dying, ODing. That's already beating the odds right there. Being 5'5", 6', 7" your entire life and literally 130 pounds and wanting to be a professional athlete and realizing like, dude, like you're always going to get counted out athletically. Being uneducated, surviving a brain tumor. I mean, I just felt like I was counted out my whole entire life. And so I said, instead of, hey, let's not have little man syndrome. Let's not have insecurities. Let's say, what are all these situations that were very tough to overcome? How do we turn those into, these are the greatest blessings that I've ever received, and turning everything into a positive light and saying, I just look at all of those things and turn those into ways that I can now become more powerful, to build businesses, to have a great family, to give, to Kayla and my kids the best life possible, and to help other people win and be successful. There's room for everyone to eat. And that's why, once again, to repeat, I hate coming on podcasts. I hate doing this because it ends up about me when I'm like, I just want to bless people's life and help them. I want to add value to them. And I want to say, I stayed on a freaking pest control truck spraying for 5 years. I'm building $1 billion company. So it's like, if you're on that pest control truck right now, spraying for 5 years, like, things can change quick, and it happens quick when you figure it out. And there's like, once you figure it out, just freaking double down, man, and don't give a shit what people think. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, let's dive into a little bit of that value, and I'll speak personally and give a little bit of a background, and you correct me where I miss anything. But my daughter, I view her as a creative. She likes to come to the golf lessons, and, she just learned her backhand spraying and all that kind of stuff that some of the other girls are doing. But if we leave her alone, she is creating. Like right now, she's into sculpture with different clays. And it's like, I'm getting similar vibes to when I saw some of your artwork at 8 years old. Like, wow, this is a real talent. And immediately what comes into my mind and Lex's mind is that there's no money in art. You said that you're a fraction away from drawing caricatures on Newport Beach, and I think that there's this real stipulation of like, oh, that's great, you want to be an artist, but how are you going to make money? Like, oh, that's great, you want to, and I'll maybe widespread the term artist. Like, that could be like a musical talent, somebody that's great at design or understands Lightroom and Photoshop or videography or whatever it may be. But there's this stipulation historically, maybe not as much over the last 10 years, but historically, you're an artist, that's great, but that's a hobby. How do you monetize on it, or how do you bring it to life? Can we speak to maybe a parent or that has a creative, or a 16-year-old that's a creative, and his parents are looking at him, or her parents are looking at them like, it's time to grow up. Like, it's time to do that. Because I saw it with you. One of my favorite stories around education was when you decided that, hey, like, I should probably go to school. I don't quite know what I'm doing yet.
I went to school.
You said, hey, I can't remember where your car was, but you asked for a ride. And I went and took you to MCC, and it was a 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. class. I dropped you off. I went and got a drink. There was like this place to get boba. This is weird memories now coming up, but I had a friend, she liked boba, and so I'm like, oh, I'll grab this and go take her one. And by the time I dropped it off to her and was leaving, I looked down at my phone. It's you calling, and you're like, hey man, can you come pick me up? It's like 8 o'clock. I'm like, I thought your class was 7 to 10. You're like, yeah, this isn't for me. And I literally laughed the whole time driving back to the school. I picked you up. You got in the car, and that was, to my knowledge at least, the extent of education after high school is 1 hour at a community college, and whatever you spent registering for that class or whatever curriculum you had. Like, how did you...
That was 1 hour too long, just so we...
1 hour too long. In high school, like, you were a fine student, and I don't know if that was like to get good enough grades to play sports or expectations on the home, but like you took advanced classes and like you did fine like when you needed to, but like I didn't feel like you loved school, but I certainly didn't feel like you were slow, like you were capable. So speak to that artist right now or those parents that have a creative on something that could be useful to help them find their path.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a journey for everyone. But if someone is like uber artistic, like super artistic, like just to give you the most basic way of looking at it, and let's just dumb it down a lot. The world right now is in dire need of creative. And the reason why is the world is shifting. The world in a marketing ad space. So from a consumer side, we look at it as, if you've watched Mad Men, right? It used to be 5 guys in a boardroom drawing an ad, creating a campaign, and buying billboard. Like it went literally from hand drawn these campaigns, and that was pretty much, and 3 or 4 agencies pretty much controlled the world of dictating that creative that marketing or advertising narrative, right? Then we basically had the explosion of the internet and the .com boom, right? Where it's like, wait, what? We can get websites built and we can get data to people at at an extremely fast rate. And that's when you saw the world, change completely different, where, we had streaming, Cuban and all that was streaming, and then YouTube and everything started to come to where we had this explosion of basically like digital media. And now we're in this third phase to where it's like, it's all digital pretty much, everything. I mean, there's still billboard and print, whatever. But now every single human being pretty much who has Instagram or has YouTube or TikTok is now basically a digital creator. And so it went from like 3 or 4 agencies to, the internet and web and whatever. Now it's everybody. And so the world right now is in this huge competition for attention, as we know. And so more than ever, better creative, better art is more valuable than it's ever been, in my opinion. And it's like, and now we're starting to see this to where it's like this plumber or this roofer or this, who knows, this, let's just call it a flooring guy. Now there's a flooring guy who thinks, oh, I'm a digital creator and I'm a branding person. And now it's almost cringe to watch what some of these guys are putting out. It's because they think like, because I own a business, because an entrepreneur, I need to be the guy to put out content and I need to be to put out to it to where, and now I'm looking out and I'm seeing the Millers of the world and all these beautiful, amazing artists that are creating or trying to sell t-shirts or doing all these things. And it's like, why in the world am I having to watch all my local service companies, a majority of them who don't have a creative bone in their body, try to become media or try and become content creators when they're uncomfortable in their skin doing it? It's cringe to watch, and it's not converting. And so the issue comes back to the very question that you're asking: is we're not conditioning and we're not teaching our artists and our creatives how art can apply to business. And there's 10 different things that they can do. Well, to dumb it down is, right now I'm literally on Fiverr, Upwork, trying to find low dollar, creatives all the time to fill in the gaps on my team. It's like, and if I go take our 10 best friends, okay, right now, and they're average 4 or 5 kids, 50 kids, how many of them from the age of 6 to 12 are going to open Adobe Suite? Tell me. 0. There you go. So literally, you're telling me Adobe Suite is running the creative world, and there's not a 6 or 12-year-old of the 50 affluent friends that we have who are entrepreneurs, who all own businesses, that have a kid learning Adobe Suite? Like, that's ridiculous. It's right there in front of your face. So it's like, learn Adobe to begin with. Like, become great at it. The Adobe Suite's incredible. There's animation for people that don't know. There's Photoshop for photo. There's Illustrator, which is vector and graphic design. There's probably 10 programs. Don't quote me on that right now in Adobe Suite. So that's a huge issue that I'm seeing.
What's Miller doing in Adobe Suite? She's 8 years old right now. We're learning. Like, where does somebody learn Adobe Suite? Is that hiring somebody? Is that her YouTube University? Like, where do I start her?
Yeah, with YouTube, I would find someone that's really good at it and pay for private lessons, beg the Mrs. Richardsons of the world to come and do it. Like, I tip my hat to my mom. My mom put me in private pen and ink. Do you know anyone that ever took private lessons? You don't know. So you know a lot of people. You're known for knowing people, bro. You don't know one person who did private watercolor pen and ink. I did.
Ever.
Thanks. Shout out Debbie, right? She took care of me there. It helped me a lot understanding the basics of shading, the basic of light control and stroke and all that. Like, I learned that at a very young age, which helped me convert my artistic ability into all the other things, that I do. And now I have a production company that, and it all comes, art is, to me, art is divine. I believe that it's literally like there is right or wrong to some extent in art. When I see a billboard, I'm like, ooh, balance, font, color. Like, I feel it's divine. God kind of puts out in this world what looks good and what doesn't to me. It's not so much subjective as people make. I could argue this point. And so if you're given the God-given talent of being a creator, and I feel like God does it to make this world beautiful, we need these platforms and these tools in order to do it. So connect the dots between media and art and all the tools that it took to get it there. That's the most simplistic dumb. So
like Lightroom or Photoshop or any of that kind of stuff, like, could that be in that? Like, you're suggesting Adobe.
Yes.
But like, are
all those programs. So how to get your hands on them, you need to find, like, there's college courses on them. There's YouTube videos on them. Find people who are using them. Intern for kids. Like, basically I would tell my kid, hey, watch this YouTube video. I can watch a YouTube video there's a ton of like 5 to 7 minute. I use them today. And it's basically how to make this graphic look cartoon. So it's basically, I take a picture of James and then I put it in Photoshop and then I go through all either, the vectors or the Photoshop layers and I do it. And so, like, there's 5,000 videos on just how to get one specific filter or look or effect. So I would start there. So that's a great, like, Camber. I'm gonna do that with Camber. She's 13. I'm gonna say, hey, Camber, make this image look like this Superman cartoon graphic. Here's the picture. Go do it, and do it every day, and then you'll learn that one thing. So it's just learning skill sets. Buy them the Adobe Suite. It's probably, I think you can finance or at least it used to be like $500 or $1,000 to buy it. Now you just buy the suite for like Photoshop's like $9.99 a month or whatever. So buy them the suite. And then I would use YouTube, but I would really try and find a Mrs. Richardson of the world that could sit down with them and do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, like, for me, it's like, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So, like, try to take how it's like, look what he's done. I then, once again, to reiterate why I hate sitting here talking about myself, Jay-Z's not going to, like, do you want Jay-Z to come on here and talk about how good he is at rapping? Like, that doesn't do anyone any good. But he's a billionaire because of being able to leverage his talents, his relationships, his resources. So that's the thing, teaching kids, like, okay, how does art play a role in business? Look what the Kardashian, look at Kim does, look at Kylie does, look at all the people who are killing it. There's art in everything, right? And that's what makes, and so we need to teach the kids, this is how art and creative played a role in this. If Kim Kardashian didn't, take Skims and we could teach her, here's the brand rules of Skims. Here's the consistency. Here's the lighting. Here's the website. Here's her social media posts on Skims. Here's her brand ambassadors. Here's the micro influencer campaign she's running. Dissect for me now everything that she's doing and how it applies back to art or brand rules. And once again, I know so much about this because this is what I do, but like, it's pretty like, if you're a parent, like you could watch a video on what is brand rules and how to teach the kid how to build a brand deck, and then give them the exercise. Like, how does this brand deck associate? Like now go give them a case study, give them Skims. Hey Miller, show me the color palette that Kim's using in Skims. And now we're reverse engineering everything. I do it naturally. I see everything and I'm like, oh, eek, they don't have brand rules, or wow, they're killing it. Like I see it from a mile away. It's how I'm wired, right? So, but it's just break it down for them. Which kid do I know? Like, if I give someone, this, and I say, show me the brand rules for Monster, show me that, like, and I could break down a can, and like kids need to understand that if they're creative, they're artists, or once again, double down on being an artist. So, there's a dude, something Rodriguez or whatever, he does the subway paintings in New York City. He's got a couple million followers, but he'll like paint people and he's so good at it. Or there's a new company out called like Piggy Banks. They're basically pop art and they limit them to runs of like 20 or 30. They're all one of ones, but he's such a good artist and he's a great example where he does pop art and it's beautiful. So okay, you can go be Shepard Fairey and you can work for Obey and you can trade your resources for a $200,000 salary, or you can be Piggy Banks and you can create this dope studio and you become an artist. So Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton just, are the new Ferrari drivers. Chuck's been there for a little bit, but Lewis is now. And so he shock dropped last night, Lewis and Charles shaking hands over the new Ferrari car, and it was a shock drop of 20 items. Those sell out $400 or $500 each. He makes, $2-3 grand overnight. Now those are reselling for $3,000. He's eventually going to get in on the back end of that, but he's creating hype and value, and all he's doing is drawing one picture, and on the computer, he's changing it minor to be a 101, and he's printing it on 20 different stocks of paper. Now he has 20 to 30 101s. And now he's got the most Steph Curry just did hand signed 20 of them. Steph Curry's a fan now of Piggy Banks. And this is just an artist who's understanding supply and demand, who's understanding how to monetize and build a brand, and is pretty much spending most of his day just drawing one piece of pop art. And I gave you the perfect example there. But if he didn't understand culture, if he didn't understand business, if he didn't understand all these things, he would be the guy that I'm hiring on Fiverr for $20 an hour.
And I guess what I'm hearing you say is that if you have a creative and they don't give up on their possibility of generating income or wealth from it, that the possibilities are endless.
I didn't do a good job of closing that point. Go be the greatest oil painter in the world and just partner with someone like you, like me, who can tell you, hey, dude, you probably don't have it, or you have it. Let's help you build you a business infrastructure. Let's get you a gallery. Let's get you with influencers. Let's get you a marketing arm and go be the greatest artist. So I gave you an example, which art's coming back, I think, more than ever.
Graphic tees and like people are just finding ways to bring their art. Or
even like actual art, like oil, watercolor, like people will spend money on it now. There's these designers and like you could be an artist now and make money, but you need to know how to market yourself. That's the difference. I gave the example with Piggy Banks of saying, hey, that dude, he's just taking his graphic, he's probably doing it in Illustrator. And now he's basically saying, I'm attached to a business where now that becomes, he understands supply and demand and all those things. So he's selling it through that channel. You can also just sell art through the channel of art if you understand how to market it. So I'm not saying, because I don't want every artist to go sell out to media companies and ad either. Like there's a way to do it. I look for opportunities to collaborate with artists and help them. Like, as we grow Uni, I'm going to look to basically feature artists or collaborate with artists. And so like my hero, Virgil Abloh was basically like, I feel like he was an artist first, and guess who came to him with a check and a bag? Was two people did, Louis Vuitton and Nike. And they said, hey, you're creative. You're the best in the world at this literal, way of formulating art. Do the original 10. So they took his skill set. And so they were able to, but he was true to his art and he stayed true. Now he was able to monetize through Nike, potentially blew up. Off-White was a big part of it. And then he got hired because of that as head of Louis Vuitton Men before he passed. So it's like that dude changed the world because of his staying true to him as an artist. And that's not being taught. Why isn't that being taught? And how that affected the world. Steve Jobs is an artist. Like, at the end of the day, like the way that the phone feels, looks, moves, the display of everything, the feel of it, that's art. He didn't read my book yet. He should have. He would have probably been able to build bigger teams and empower people more and left a little bit more of a positive legacy on people. He didn't scale himself well. I don't think he knew his weaknesses. I don't think he wanted the feedback from what I learned about Steve. I think that's important. I think he could have been more powerful, but I mean, he also left a great legacy, but he was true to how things needed to look and feel. So we need to teach the Millers of the world, like Steve Jobs is an artist, Virgil was an artist, Kim Kardashian's an artist. Like, all these people are artists, and this is how they're taking art and using it to grow businesses and
monetizing
it. And that's what I love to do. I don't want to be known as an artist or a creative. I want to be known as a disruptor, believe it or not, because I believe that I can take art and I can take creative and I can take incredible business models and concepts. I can marry them together and I can disrupt any sector. And that's why I'm so excited about Uni, is because I'm disrupting the uniform space at a rate that's never going to be done before. And I'm very, very excited about it. So, I mean, hopefully that's good for parents, and I hopefully got enough information of like them looking at it that way. Reverse engineer, dumb it down, start at basic tasks and work it back towards the end result.
Where did you get the business side of it? Like, where did you, I think my answer would be that you wanted certain things growing up and you might not have got them for whatever reason. And you were just going to say, like, that's not going to be the case for me. Is that if I want something, I will go and buy it. And I felt like that was almost the engine that's constantly driven you, is that if you wanted something, you wanted the ability to do that. In order for you to do that, you needed to create a certain amount of income or wealth to be able to do so. And now I'm going to stay true to who I am to go create it. But like, where is that? Am I on the right page? Like, am I close?
You would
like,
think I thought that, but no, it's wrong. I actually am believing my reason why I'm building, remodeling, building a beautiful home, or I care about certain things, is visual OCD. Actually, I actually care to be able to control my environment at a level of what I like, but more than I like to have it from a materialistic standpoint. And people will argue and say you're full of shit, but no, like, I want my environment, my house, to be a certain way because it makes me comfortable because of my visual OCD, not because I can flex, I have a nice house. Don't care at all about that. And so it's the same thing with shoes. I don't want to have 500 pairs of shoes. I want to be able to present myself in the way that I feel comfortable from a creative, from an artistic perspective. And my case study is I've received some very big checks, been blessed to receive decent size, income. And when I go in and when I built Green Mango, honestly, the income, monthly installment came or quarterly draw, whatever, hits. Oh, cool. Look at it. Love it. Great. It's a byproduct of a lot of, hard work and luck and everything, right? Great partnerships. Cool. Seeing a truck clean, drive down the road, just when the sun's hitting a matte black truck perfectly, and the technician rolled his hose up perfectly, and he took his spider web cover off and put his pole nicely in there, and he has a dope Nike polo, soon to be uni polo on, and his hat. And seeing that just at dusk, seeing a matte black truck at dusk, clean, that to me, that feeling, that is greater than any amount of money I will ever make. With uni, with the beautiful uniforms that we design and create, it's like having these athletes and these influencers reach out to us, want to be a part of this, this incredible journey. We're pulling this beautiful polo that I designed and our team helped. We have an incredible team there, out of this bag that looks like space, like it's from NASA, and pulling that out and holding that and filming that, to me, is greater than any amount of money. So it's the end result of all the hard work of the creative, and the greatest creative in the world always gets rewarded with a lot of money. We're seeing it time after time. So I know that's a byproduct of it, and I'm grateful for it.
Let me be the other side and just be the investor, the business partner, the CFO that says it's not worth the spend. Because you referenced Green Mango, which is one of the first companies you built, and I saw it. Like, you got a hard time from onlookers. Like, why would you spend so much money on uniform and certain color, rigs and hoses, and why does every one of your trucks have to be painted a different color? Why don't you use a smaller truck? Like, why do you use the more expensive one, and why do you wrap everything, and why does the booties that your technicians put on before they go into the house have to be a certain color? And like, you died on that hill. Like, yeah. You did not allow it to change. Like, it was the most important thing. You were going to go down swinging on that concept, but it was looked at like, who cares? They're just spraying in the backyard and in the garage. Like, they don't need to be in a new Nike dry fit with, and by the way, like you talked about brand rules. Like, I saw you scour, the internet and retail places to make sure that like, you didn't justify different colors of green inside of the color brand. Like, it was so important to you. And at times I looked at it and I was like, who cares? Like, green is green. Or like, why does it have to be this kind of green or this kind of, matte black or whatever it may be? Like, what do you say to the person that is a business owner right now that has a very basic generic brand that they created or paid somebody $700 to create for them?
Oh, I have so many thoughts on this.
Like, what are you saying to that person that's saying, is the juice worth the squeeze on bringing a creative in to create a brand?
This is why you're so good at what you do, man. You just know how to get the information out of people in such a good way, man. You're very talented.
Thank you.
I have 3 or 4 things that went through my head that I think will add value to people. Hopefully I can get through all of them really quick. Number 1, it's a Swiss timepiece. It's its orchestra. So I'd love to give the example, okay? If I give a $5 million Super Bowl commercial to the greatest, to the best air conditioning company in Arizona today, HVAC, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They really wouldn't. They literally would go destroy it probably.
You're saying you're gifting them. Hey, listen, I love you guys. This is valued $5 million.
Here's a 30-second Super Bowl spot.
Okay.
They wouldn't know what to do with it if it hit them upside the head. They wouldn't know. And they'd probably just hurt their business because they'd look so janky trying to produce a commercial. What I learned is it's a Swiss timepiece. I've never been to the New York Symphony or whatever is the world-renowned symphony. But what I hear, it's an overwhelming surround sound of just goodness and beauty of just, it's a spiritual experience, right? Swiss timepiece, same thing. Take one little tiny gear out of a high-end watch, doesn't work. It needs all 5,000 parts working together, self-propelling. There's a synergy to marketing. There's a synergy to doing this. And that's the sad thing, that I'm like, I know how to do it. How can I help teach people how to do it instead of talking about how I'm great at it? Like, I don't want people to become frustrated with it. So the answer is basically everything needs to be moving together in order to create that energy and in order to create that it's almost like a living organism, a business. And so what I learned, and I got lucky, I came naturally, and I had great partners who killed it at operations and dealing with people so that I could focus on this. The reason why I had to make the trucks look a certain way is because I wasn't selling pest control. Okay? McDonald's sells happiness. They don't sell food, right? It's like I was selling peace of mind. I was selling quality. That's what I was selling.
Premium.
I was selling a premium quality experience that brought peace of mind to people. And so in order for me to sell that, and that's a big issue, just take that as a side note. If anyone ever listens to this, it's like, number one, your product that you're selling is probably not your product that you're selling. It's something emotional or an appendage of it. And the people that figure that out do really good. And that's another reverse engineering exercise that you could do with kids and saying, what are they selling here? Well, I'm selling, you know, I'm selling a phone. No, you're not.
I'm not selling a return. I'm selling peace of mind.
Selling convenience. You're selling efficiency. So don't tell me about my stupid, like Steve Jobs. Like, you can talk about your megapixels. Like, teach me how this can make my life better, and then the emotion, you know, that comes with it. And because marketing and sales are emotional, so quit trying to sell people tangible objects. Sell people the benefits. Sell people the emotion behind it. And I could dive into that, but I mean, so what I learned is if I develop a brand and a energy and a concept and a cultural vibe around something, then there's right or wrong. So the way so if this is my brand, this is my rules, this is my energy, this is my baby, and it's growing and it's got this energy, then there's a right or wrong on how that truck needs to look. So you're an HVAC company who looks like that and feels like that and has a messy truck and is trying to do $1 million in sales. Like, that is who you are. That's your energy. That's great. I'm not ripping on those people. But that wasn't the energy and the brand and the vibe that I was trying to create. And so my brand, my right or wrong, my Swiss timepiece, that little gear in that, which was that truck, needed to me specifically look a certain way to make someone feel a certain way. The way the technician looks when he shows up, clearly, what's the highest quality brand at the time? Nike. Put them all in Nike perfectly. And then design that to make someone feel like, oh, that dude just showed up in $200 shoes. Well, guess what? That's peace of mind right there. Like, he's wearing a $200 shoe that I want. My bug man is. Sure as hell know that he's going to, eject my columns with something awesome. I sure as hell think that I have a better chance of killing scorpions with the dude, that showed up in a branded hose than someone who gave them whatever, the hell that was the best discount at the local spray rig supply company. And so you start to look at this and develop the brand, and then it just, to me, my visual OCD comes in and says, there's just no right or wrong, and I'm fully committed to it. And if you build that machine right, and you build that, because it is literally a machine, 100% of the time, the ROI, the input-output of dollars in, dollars out work every single time if the machine's built right. Now, if I built an HVAC machine and my machine isn't working right because it's not everything that I love to build and have built, when I put $1 million into that machine, it's going to yield $300,000 return. And so when the symphony's there and the Swiss timepiece is humming and that machine's built, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. But it takes so much of paying it forward in order to get it. And if you can't get it there, don't build it. Double down. If you're a restoration company and you don't know how to build that, just keep paying plumbers. That's okay. Be that and be the best in the world at that. If you're, bet on quality, bet on the things that you can control and be great at those things. But the companies that build this, the Nikes of the world, the Apples of the world, all the Kardashian brands that are killing it, they build the entire mechanism and then they double down on it. And that's how you do it. And I could break down all the little things that affect that machine, but to dumb it down as low as we can, it comes down to what are all the touch points of the interactions. I'm big on customer experience. And that's like, so customer seeing my truck, that's an customer interacting, verbal, scripts, text message, follow-up, communication, website, social media, all those things that are those 10 to 15 things, those need to be dialed, and those need to be very specific to that living organism, that brand, that machine, that symphony that you're building. And it's scary because you take out the bass, you take out the violin, you take out one gear, you're screwed. So you got to get it right if you do it. And that's why I think most of these businesses fail.
What do you mean screwed? If you don't have bass, like you can still have a solo guitar.
No, buy a $250,000 radio contract to a $2 million company and see what happens to it. They'll be out of business in 6 months. Perfect example for you. That's how you're screwed. Why did radio work for me? Because everything else was built and working. And people are like, oh, like I've heard people still to today, like, oh yeah, they killed it on John Jay and Rich. No, you want my sales funnel sheet? Because I sold 10,000 organic contracts in 1 year. And John Jay and Rich, shout out, great people, sold me maybe 1,200 accounts. 8,800 accounts had to come in from other sources. But that was amplifying the other, yes. It was very important. If I didn't have the guy showing up branded the way that he was, and this comes a lot to business model and justifying the ROI, like you want to talk to this from a financial perspective, we can, then the radio, it's not going to work. And the referrals aren't going to come. And then the retention's not going to be there because the next guy that shows up so it's everything moving. And so it gave me the luxury to spend the money on the radio contracts, to spend the money on the trucks, because everything was working together to build those 20 to 25 silos that popped, and then we could get those 10,000 organics. So that's what I mean by if you try to build some of those facets or some of those pieces of that machine and you buy those and you make those spends from a marketing perspective and it's not all built properly, that's where you can get yourself in trouble. Maybe saying you're completely screwed is a little extreme. I'm an extremist. But they hurt very, very bad and they set you back very, very far. And so you're either building a symphony on the model that I like to run, or you're doubling down on the guaranteed things, with is your personal talents and resources and the things that are working, making those as great as possible. Not everyone can build $1 billion company. Not everyone can build even $1 million company. But you can use those, whether you're on this side or you're on this side, it's, there's different ways to skin a cat. Yeah. That's just my philosophy, works for me, works for my talent and skill set that I have.
Will you break down one of your newest ventures for a creative that's trying to monetize on their product for me?
So how does creative affecting uni? Is that what you're asking?
Nope. I'm going to use a different example, and then we're gonna dive into uni a little bit further. So you recently, I'm scrolling through social media. It's not your account, and you pop up on, I'm going to call it a commercial, with a Gold Glove athlete in professional baseball.
Not gold, 2-time Silver Slugger All-Star World Champion.
Okay, sorry.
Hopefully Austin gets a Gold Glove soon.
Okay, so you're with what I just viewed as an all-star.
He is, phenomenal baseball player.
And you guys are promoting one of the largest brands in the world. Like, is it fair to say a top?
Yeah, Coors Light's massive. Molson Coors, incredible
brand in the entire world, period.
Yeah.
Like, you know who it is. And I'm looking through it, and I'm like, okay, I knew you were working with Austin. I didn't know that you guys had made a commercial or whatever you are. And I look through it, and I can tell. I see you all over it. I see that I imagine that you had a lot to do with the background of that. Tell me Austin's not from Arizona, that I know of, at least. He's playing baseball in Atlanta. If anyone that looked at you from your hometown would look at you as, a guy that started service companies, so like, where how do you link with someone like Austin Riley? How do you show them what you could bring to their brand? How do you create a Coors Light into his portfolio and yours? Like, tell me like the basic steps of
the creative journey from being a creative to working to having Coors Light give me creative freedom.
Yes.
Yeah. So really cool story. I'm super, super grateful for a lot of the relationships, people that have trusted me, people that have introduced me to people. So have a good friend. His name's John. Hell of a dude, just killer dude. Super, super grateful for him. He basically was running a whole bunch of events he's contracted like Travis Scott he did his Super Bowl party. Just really talented guy. John realized that a lot of these athletes, and we're really going to connect a lot of dots here. So just to give a little bit of backstory on how the creative world works, so this will make more sense. Creative or companies usually hire a creative agency to basically create creative concepts or marketing campaigns, to then develop those that they then sell to media companies to produce or hire athletes to produce, right? And so a lot of these companies have external agencies that they're relying on to give them the creative.
They already have their brand. They're not hiring the agency to create the brand. They have a brand, and they're saying, get more eyes and ears on this.
Yes.
And they hire an agency to
give me the creative and help me land athletes and endorsements to then amplify the creative. So that's kind of how the creative work. So what like 5 years ago or so, John was like, I'm getting in some of these deals, even at the event level, and they don't have any creative help. So connecting the dots for like someone like, my daughter Camber is super creative, or Miller, super creative. It's like creative's in dire need. So John was needing it for events. How do we make these events branded? How do we make these experiences better? They have some logo that looks like they made it on, 98 paint and whatever. So he basically started to slowly plug me in and introduce me to a lot of professional athletes who just were like, hey, we got a $200,000 budget for an event. But it looks like crap. Help them make it. And then, oh yeah, this guy needs social, and then we want to promote it. Now we're spending money on a charity event, and we're spending money on an event. Now we need to promote it. Now it needs to be syndicated across a whole bunch of different media outlets, and it needs to be advertised for, right? And so that takes creative. So there was needs for creative touches throughout just him from an event side. So he kept plugging me. And then basically,
is he plugging you because you have this portfolio that you show to people of all the brands you created?
Because of my service company, probably because of my service company reputation. Because, I mean, a lot of my, because
I was in California and I saw one of your brands in California, like at the house that we were staying at.
So it's just, I think it's a lot of, it's just I built I paid my dues in service. I paid them way too long. So I'm trying to expedite uni now because I'm grateful that Green Mango was a 14-year venture or whatever it was. But I paid my dues at the local service level for a long time. And basically people were able to see my creative work, which led to, because some of those businesses, mainly Green Mango, was a huge success and got big, had a great reach. So a lot of people saw that.
So he's plugging you because he's seen your brands out there. So that's a testament to your social media exposure or whatever, wherever you're getting exposure, getting eyes on your brands that you've created. He understands that you're the one that did the creative behind it. And now he is appreciating what you're calling your visual OCD and saying these events need your visual OCD.
Yeah, I mean, and he's smart. Like, he knows my business sense too. And that's why I love Johnny. He's smart enough to say, this guy is great at business, understands branding, can help plug him in some way, if you will, and it's going to add value. And I'm grateful for my God-given talent. It's nothing I did. Literally, God gave me the talent that I can plug in and help amplify anything from an artistic perspective or a business perspective. So yeah, he plugs me, multiple little things. I try my best. I deliver. some stuff's just, hey, help us. And my wife, not to call her out, I mean, she's my biggest fan, but it's like sometimes she's like, why are you doing your talents are way greater than, it's the biggest bone I have to pick with so many people. It's like, pay your dues. Like, too, it's like, maybe branding a little tiny event for a charity is, it is, below my pay grade. But, it's like, I have a couple hours a day that I've allocated to being creative, and I'm going to squeeze that in really quick because it's going to lead to bigger things. So I still pay my dues today on certain things. It's just a principle that I don't know why people are afraid to do it. So I paid my dues on a lot of those things. Long story long, those led to now some of the brands are becoming involved with those events. And some of and they're starting to see my creative work. And now I'm on phone calls, or I'm on basically roundtable. I'm on think tanks, if you will, with this from the event side. And so now I'm getting introduced to brands, and I'm getting introduced to athletes. So, I was able to we did the JaVale McGee's celebrity softball tournament there, where, we got to meet Booker, we got to meet OBJ. We got to meet all those great people, and then relationships and things come from that. And now brands are saying, plug me in, I want to be a part of this. And, I've given an autonomy to run those events and help do those things. Those are all relationships from John. And now I'm plugged into brands. So what then happens is, John gets a opportunity to work with Austin and basically run his celebrity golf tournament. And it's like, it starts out as, hey, we need a logo. So once again, I'm not above, putting this together. Austin's a great guy, love him to death, like just a stand-up role model, put a brand together. And then you start to get on these calls, and I try to add value where I can, and it gets to a point to where it evolves, and it evolves to the point to where, okay, now we want you to run Austin's social media full time, because you have the talent to do it. Like, would you be willing to do it? And so, so now I'm basically, my agency was able to run Austin's, social media full time. Well, when you're running social media and you're a very endorsable athlete, guess what? There's brand deals that are going to come to the table. And so then Austin's getting brand deals. Well, now Austin's like my homie, he's my friend. Like I love the kid to death, and I have his best interest at heart for sure. And I have a great relationship with his marketing agents and his agents, and they know that, like, hey, I'm going to put the athlete first and the brand before myself. I'll get paid on the back end. We'll figure this all out, and I just want everyone to win. Now I'm the guy who's saying, okay, Austin just signed a deal with the Mizunos of the world, or Coors Light and all these brands, and it's like, now you're running social media. Now I need you to control the creative for Coors Light. We don't want to use their agencies. We don't want to use the internal, smaller marketing things for some of these other brands. We want you to dictate the narrative and control it to both protect Austin, and also to amplify it, right? Like, let's be honest, if it wasn't going to be top tier creative, they wouldn't want it either. So I've been blessed to be able to create really great content. And so now Coors Light has to work with me in order to work with some of these athletes. Well, what I'm finding out is I understand the athlete better. I understand the industry better. So now I'm helping them to cut out large agencies, and for them to not have to deal with those costs and those spends, to where it's like, what greater opportunity than just to work directly with the athletes. And I found a niche to add value to where I'm giving them the creative. And so shout out to Coors Light, how we get all the way there. They send me out with Austin with a budget. They pay me, well, and they say, do what you do and create. And for a Fortune 500 or whatever they are, billion-dollar company, to be able to say, we trust you, you have a pulse on the market, you have the relationship with Austin, go make art, go make this great, because whatever you create is going to monetize really, really well for us. And so I knew in that moment that I had a great responsibility. And I said, you know what, Austin, let's do something with a little parody. Austin's the most calm, collected Southern gentleman you'll ever meet. Let's get him at his golf tournament, dropping the F-bomb, going crazy because he can't hole a putt, and get people's attention right out of it. And I married that, having respect to their current campaign, which is chill. You see a chill billboard everywhere you go, or, commercial. And basically I said, okay, I got a Airstream here, which they're trying to connect the dots. They've invested a couple $100,000 to have that here. It's a beautiful Airstream. We're at a golf tournament. We're marrying Austin with golf and baseball, which is hunting and golf, does better numbers than him playing baseball. We'll get all the baseball content we want on SportsCenter. And so I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to amplify. I'm going to understand the endorsed Austin. I'm going to build a parody campaign here. He's going to go crazy, scream the F word. I'm going to connect the dots with their national campaign, Find Your Chill. And I'm going to utilize all my resources here. So we built an awesome, commercial, went viral, 2.4 million views on the reel. And that's how I was able to basically build that journey into now Coors Light. We're negotiating, we're negotiating right now an annual contract with them, where I can, help produce multiple commercials and things like that. So paid my dues, and it was kind of a long thing. And I'm just super grateful for Austin. I'm super grateful for the ability, the trust that Coors Light gives me as a businessman, as a disruptor, and also as a creative, to be able to produce. And it's a dream. Like, I pinch myself every day that I have, that I had the partnerships and the relationships that I had at Green Mango to learn what I learned, for Cameron's trust in me, what he did for these Fortune 500 multi-billion-dollar companies, Austin Rye, these athletes who trust me, and for my incredible team and my new partnerships and this incredible venture that we have at uni. Like, I feel super blessed to be where I'm at. I'm in such a state of I'm just so grateful. Like, I could be that dude literally painting horses, drawing horses right now in Rancho Cucamonga, trying to sell a horse painting for $15. So I'm just blessed. So it's kind of a perfect storm.
So if we were to reverse engineer that, I heard that you have an agency. So when it came time to, you're incorporated, and I'm not hiring T. Dustin Williams, I'm hiring the agency. This is the founder of that agency.
We Are Caviar is my creative agency. That's where my creative lives, where I can basically bill out for creative work.
So we've got the 18-year-old that's super talented and has this skill set. Let's call it videography or photography or whatever it is. They can create an agency or their version of an agency, or incorporate. Now go put in the time by approaching businesses, families, clients, making content for them to build up their book of business or their portfolio to show what their talents are.
Great model.
And
you seen the guy who makes car videos, who's like, oh, can I make you a quick little car video on your car? Stuff like that. It's like
at the gas station, he goes and stops a cool car and says, look at my stuff. Let me create a.
So when I need a quick little 15-second reel, I'm going to find that guy, and I'm going to build, and I'm going to carve a budget for guys like that. It's like, dude can do it. Like, don't be afraid to pay your dues on stuff like that. And then if he comes to you and says, oh, I actually have an agency, we'll negotiate price and spend, bill his agency, plug him right in. Like,
so that looks like
the easiest way to monetize right now where they mess up is just give me a menu. Just brand me a menu. Here's the services that I provide. Here's 5 examples of me showing you these services. Here's my video. Here's my 5 reels. Here's my long form videography. And here's basically here's just like Instagram content or kind of a portfolio. Here's my fees, and show me a menu.
Okay.
And I'm the Maccabee's agency of whatever you want to be and incorporate. And yeah, now I'm there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then that's the thing, like craziest thing, like creatives like think that they don't have to market either. Like agencies, it's the weirdest thing. Like for whatever reason, why do dentists graduate college or whatever they do and think that they don't have to like build a business and market? And why do creative agencies and creatives think that they don't have to build a business and actually market their marketing or advertise their advertisement? Like it's a business. And I think that you're helping me have an epiphany of like turn your creative into a business and build it out with a business model. Like, duh.
You can go into any meeting right now and talk top line, bottom line, EBITDA. Like you can go and have those conversations. And as a result, I think that that's a breath of fresh air rather than pay me, I'll make something great. Like, you know, and yeah, I would encourage, you know, special, you know, an attorney. You use dentistry as an example. You know, like we had Brian Harris on, who's one of your buddies, and like, yeah, like he went and
dude's a beast.
Took his business and learned how to market it. And now it's there. And it's like, man, if you can get these creatives to understand how to generate revenue or what ad spend is or whatever it may be to a business, like they're just going to stand out.
Brian's a great example. I mean, Brian doesn't sell teeth. Brian sells confidence.
Yeah.
And Brian is a hell of a marketer. Perfect example of a lot of the things. And he knows his weaknesses and his strengths. He does what he's great at. And look at everyone that's doing it. Look at you said lawyers. Like the ones who are marketing and advertising, it's like they're killing it. They're printing money. And the ones that aren't. It's like, it's crazy to me. Like, so we talked a lot, like the book I'm writing on that chapter, we've already naturally covered a lot of those things. But like a big one to me, I think of kind of where is basically like, obviously is one of the chapters I want to talk about is having a ceiling. And I just had the idea of it because I love Brian. So many people, and this has helped me so much and ruined me so many times. And so we talked about knowing your weaknesses. We've talked about understanding, know thyself, right? Know your weaknesses. We talked about marketing, which is a huge chapter in my book. And one of them's passive residual income to me, which we don't need to get into. But basically, one of the reasons I'm been able to make millions of dollars is because it's mailbox money, and I can continue to leverage my resources and talents. So that's a chapter. One of the other ones is basically people get into businesses that have a ceiling. So when you said Brian, I thought of it is no one taught me this. And so and to the Millers of the world who are learning, to, Camber, who are artists and all these things, it's like they think that they need to go buy a candy shop and sell candy when they could go be the biggest sugar supplier in the world, right? That's kind of, and I never learned that. And so a lot of my businesses that failed, I have a lot of them, is because I didn't realize understanding scale and that ceiling. And so it's, when you thought of Brian's so smart of like, yeah, he's a dentist and he's doing everything that we've been talking about. He's selling confidence and he's selling that, but he's invested in, the Smile Virtual, which is a software that now, and his community of dentists, to where now he's able to take his resources. And this is so important because I wanted everyone who's trying to be a millionaire, who's, starting to subscribe to this and enjoy this incredible content that you're putting out, to understand, like, it's also getting in the right vein and in the right channel to where you can maximize your talents and you don't put a ceiling on yourself. I started a pool company in Arizona. Like, there's a ceiling there. I see so many people like buying like go buying like a screen printer locally, or like doing things like that. It's like, what do you expect out of that? You're a local you're one of like 10 people like in your neighborhood that do screen printing. Like, go develop a better ink or a better software for thing. Go develop better like tools or automations or technology if the opportunity presents itself. And I'm not saying everyone can go do these things, but this podcast is to help people become millionaires and think bigger, right? So
one of my pet peeves is naming businesses after like you personally, or naming your business after the city that you're in.
Oh gosh, you've been immediately like, oh goodness.
Because I feel like, oh man, like right from the start, it lives and dies with you, period.
Yeah, naming pet peeves.
know?
You're talking to the wrong guy for naming company pet peeves.
Yeah.
But
that like that mindset almost from the very beginning, it's like, no, I'm proud. Like, this is my company and this is my hometown and this is going to be, you know, James's pool is the best in Gilbert.
There's nothing wrong with that also. I don't want to offend. Like,
no, I'm not either.
Yes. If you're some people, and I don't want to frustrate, or I don't want this to come across condescending, go build the best $500,000 local plumbing company and do what you're great at. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's the people who have an identity crisis, who think they're going to scale, who think they're going to build these multi-million, if not billion-dollar concepts, and already handicap themselves right out of the gate on these things. And that's all I'm trying to say. Nothing wrong with going and building the greatest tackle ball shop or having a candy shop in the world and going and doing that. But don't think for 1 second that that's ever going to be more than what it's going to be at the ceiling. And I wasn't taught that. I wasn't taught all these things. And that's why I'd want to give them away for free. I'm so excited about my book. I'm so excited about doing these things because how many great, talented people, how many dentists that are like maybe not as talented Brian, or, you know, really talented people who are married to that chair, who only make money when they're bent over drilling on that tooth, right? And so they've already put a ceiling of as many people as can come through that chair. We're going to do it. Those are things that no one taught me at 17, 18 years old when I'm going to go to chiropractic school. No one was teaching me passive residual income. No one was teaching me.
I forgot you were going to be a chiropractor.
No one was teaching me, hey, there's a natural ceiling on this thing. You can only screen print so many shirts. Like there's no one taught me all these philosophies. And that's why I'm so that's why I love the guys like Brian Harris. That's why I'm so excited about Uni, is because we're going to be a global distributor of uniforms at a global level. And we sell a software and a technology that helps basically, you know, automate and control all that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I hope people hear that we don't have anything about, even the name of the podcast, 1,000,000 Ways to Make $1 Million. I have nothing about somebody that is not interested in putting in the work that's required to generate that kind of income. Like, that is, I'm
jealous of that. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah.
The happiest people in the world run a local freaking donut shop, make 80 grand and are happy. I am jealous of you. I
Correct.
Want your life.
Correct.
I want that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the path I chose. I can't do it. I think too big. I'm diseased. There's a lot wrong in my brain. I don't have that I can't be that guy.
Yeah, I think that what I'd hope people would hear in that is that, in the same concept of the podcast, is that the goal is to show how accessible it is for those who do want it.
And think my decisions in business, marketing, branding, structure have short and long-term consequences.
Yeah.
And if I can give them, you know, these 5 keys of helping them understand all these things and saying like, oh, I never thought about a ceiling. I never thought about passive residual income where I don't have to spend 3 years trying to land one contract and it's feast or famine, depend on the economical temperature and depending on, you know, basically just the economy itself. Like these things, like all these different things, like, oh, I didn't understand marketing was, you know, a symphony, and that basically, like, if I take these risks on things, but these other things aren't in place, that it's actually counterproductive. Like all these concepts and philosophies that have worked for me, like I just want to help people think about them I want to add value to people and saying like, I got lucky, some of these fell on my lap, or strengths and weaknesses. Oh my gosh, like that idiot literally stayed spraying on a truck. He's a creative entrepreneur disruptor, and he stayed spraying for 5 years. Like, it's not the end of the world for me. I still have my chance. I still have, there's still runway here to go execute. Like, I just want everything to be from a state of gratitude and inspiration for everyone, and don't want them to make the same mistakes that I am making.
I could keep you here for another 3 hours. Like, we could easily just keep going. And I appreciate the time that you've spent. There's one question I wanted to ask you that I wanted people to hear, and I want to ask it. And then I'd love for you to talk about uni as what it is as a concept so people can understand it as it's going out in the world.
Love that.
One of the reasons I could keep you is that you've just always been a hustler. Like, you've found a way to generate income. This guy built a $3.5 million house on a side hobby of buying and selling sports cards, and your profits from that built this beautiful home and all those like, we could dive into a lot of other things on your mindset around opportunities. Something that you've always done that I didn't understand early is that when you go into these meetings of magnitude, you're dressed a certain way. And I think that's evolving more and more today. Like, it's becoming more and more acceptable to have tattoos and dress a certain way. But I just remember like you going and pitching people to invest in your products, and you're wearing a backwards hat and ripped jeans and a neon colored pair of shoes and glasses, like, like bracelets. Like, you would think most people would go and like get the button up shirt on and like tuck it in with a belt. Can you speak to where your authenticity has served you? Like, just if you could give like a quick snippet for, like, I get it. We were going to go pitch somebody for $25 million. And I was wearing a backwards hat and sneakers. Like, can you talk to that person around? I've always been envious of your willingness to just be authentic in who you are.
Yeah. So how can I, to the listeners, how can I add value is when the rubber meets the road, we're going to find out who everyone is. And so the sooner in any business engagement or partnership or relationship that I can find out who you really are, the better. I didn't like when I was hiring for service tax and they'd show up in a JCPenney suit that's 3 sizes too long, and you can tell that dude never wore a suit before. I kind of held it against them. And I started to ask myself why, and it's because I want to know who this person really is. Like, I want to know who you are. I don't want to do business with the avid, Pokemon collector who went and bought a pair of brand new Travis Scotts because he knows that those are trending and those are the cool thing to do to try and be cool. I literally want him to show up in the Pikachu freaking vintage t-shirt so I can understand this guy, so I can chart with this guy, so I can dissect him, relate with him, and know who he is. Because when the rubber meets the road in all business and relationships, in spousal issues, and all these things, like when the honeymoon's over on everything, let's just know who we are and know our strengths and weaknesses, know what we're going to get so we can solve problems. I'm a huge, everything is putting out fires in business. Everything is freaking like pivoting, evolving, problem solving. So I can't have an ounce of your fake bullshit around me. I need to know who you are, and we have bigger problems to solve than you trying to be something you're not. And so if I believe in that, if I hang my hat on that, why do I need to show up? Why would I want why would I not be the most genuine that I can be at all the time if I want that from people and I believe in that. And so that's a huge thing, because what ends up happening too is I think people who are super genuine, the other side of it to how can I help people more is I think this era is changing a lot from, oh, my diploma, suit and tie, COVID, the freaking, pandemic bullcrap changed everything, to where we're looking for resources and talents and relationships with people more than ever. I believe that, there's great the Gary V's of the world who are like, just be you. Like, people are starting to understand that it actually works, and it takes a long time for these corporate people. People are working from home now. Like, those facades are gone, right? And so what I was trying to get at is what ends up happening is we're actually buying authenticity. We're buying people who are not going to go, act like they're home and be on the vacation now, because we're buying a lot of resources and talents and paying for employees to work from home. We want to know that they're authentic. We want to know to show up. We want to follow them on Instagram and Facebook. We want to see who they really are. So cut the crap, be you, show me your talents, and let's bless each other's lives and make money together. Like, that's simple to me.
I love that. Don't show up in a suit if you're never going to wear it again just because you think it's going to help you close the deal.
Or, you look good dressed up. Show up in a suit. You're kind of like that kind of stuff, but that's you. Be you. Show up like...
Yeah, if I'm going to wear that suit to a date with my wife or dinner or another meeting, that's part of the authenticity of what you, or who you are, or who you're being consistently, that gives them that experience.
And don't do it like, I hate I'm going to be gothic to be gothic. Like, I'm going to show up in backwards hat because that's defiant. It's like, that's the other thing. It's like the guys who showed up to flip-flops because, like, they watched the Facebook movie and dude showed up in flip-flops. Like, if that's you, great, show up in flip-flops. But we don't need this counterculture of what it's like to be a millionaire in business culture. Like, just be you, please.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Thanks for, that's been something that from a real envious standpoint is like, man, the balls on this guy to show up to that with a backwards hat on and a Nike joggers or whatever you were wearing at the time or something like that. And it just took a little while to realize, like, that isn't defiance, that isn't balls, that's authenticity. And he's cutting the honeymoon phase out of things. Like, this is who I am. We're going to get into business together. Like, nice to meet you. I'm Dusty.
Exactly.
I love it. Tell us about Uni.
Uni is special. So I don't want to rant on too long. I want to give you kind of the key takeaways from it. So we're disrupting the uniform space. When I was running our service companies with Cam and team, to me, uniforms came so naturally because we talked a lot about that Swiss timepiece, that symphony. It's like, that's just one box, check it, in uniforms. But I didn't realize, hey, I'm pretty good at it, right? Like, I know what they need I understand trends. I understand current culture and fashion. And so I didn't realize that what was just kind of coming natural to me was actually like a pretty big resource to the company. Like, people were like, your uniforms, the way your techs look, your trucks, like, I just took it as, duh, do it.
I didn't need to follow one of your techs around worried about anything.
Oh, right.
They presented themselves in a way of cleanliness
but I didn't realize it was an asset. I just thought, hey, it's a Dusty has creative freedom on this business. This is just, to me, I do it in my sleep. It's what I do. But I didn't realize it was actually impacting the business more than I thought it was, because it came naturally. You show up and to hit a fadeaway 3-point, you have an incredible shot. To some people, they can't make like your shot is so, like, to you, it's just make a free throw. Like, how many 3-pointers did you make that one time out of 100? Like 80? It's but to you, it's not a big deal. And to me, I don't think it's a big deal because I get it. To me, like, duh, put them in incredible uniforms. I didn't realize a lot of people don't know where current trends and fashions are. They don't know all these, like, it came natural to me. So I undervalued the uniform throughout my entire service side. We had 2 to sometimes 3 employees on decent salaries, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of top line, of revenue, taking from the bottom line, to manage this, to facilitate this, to get it out, to have our own company store. But it was such a value, it was such an asset to the company. And so when I started to transition out of the service companies, and I was like, I realized like, hey, I thought maybe I should throw Cam a bone and get a Cintas or a UniFirst or something over there. I did my R&D, and I'm like, this is so archaic. This is 1985 at its best, the way that the uniform industry is looked at. And I said, I understand fashion. I understand the uniform. I understand the entrepreneurial. I understand the corporate side of the table as good as most, like really well. I'm learning. I'm trying to always improve. I understand what they need. So I took my creative, my resources, my ability to, as a designer, as a disruptor, and I said, never have I seen a market, and this is the 5th point of my chapter, is disruption. Don't get into anything if you can't disrupt it. Why? Like, if you can't check that box, don't, like, try to be a disruptor before you just go try and start a business. So that's the 5th one. So I'm grateful we got through all of them. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to create the greatest resource for businesses to not just facilitate and manage their uniforms and their company resources and materials, but I'm going to give them the ability to fully customize their garments. And so this is like a uni garment for our uni brand within our uni software, but like every tag is uni. This is custom designed for our company. So now, like the Coors Lights of the world, I can develop the entire collection of the 40 most beautiful garments. They don't have to be Louis Vuitton, or they don't have to be Lululemon or Alo. They can be the same quality, the same design, this close to the same pattern, but they can actually be a Coors Light garment. And so now I can go in and disrupt and give all these Fortune 500 multi-million-dollar companies, medium to large is where we're really focusing on businesses, an entire branded collection that's as same or higher quality as Nike, Alo, Lululemon, North Face, at the tip of their fingertips, and completely manage it, facilitate it, distribute it. We're using AI to start to understand sizing and ordering. How many small businesses have you walked in and seen 17 boxes of t-shirts on the rack that they wasted? So if they spent $200,000 a year on it, 50,000 of it's gone. And the most beautiful thing about what we do, we design an entire new collection for every single business every single year. So a Cintas, a UniFirst, they put their freaking guys in 5-year-old garments for 5 years, where it's like fashion change. Kanye comes out with something new. Kim comes out with something new. It's going to evolve, right? Fashion changes. So would you rather have your employees in a brand new, beautiful collection, completely, perfectly tailored to the specific needs of your industry, with my touch and our team's touch of current brands and trends that you get refreshed every single year, that's fully, the analytics and the distribution are fully controlled by our incredible software? Or would you rather be going to your local screen printing shop or trying to use a company, like Cintas, UniFirst, and put them in some janky laundered, Dickies pants they're going to wear for 5 years? So it's our brand ambassador team is growing. Top celebrities, athletes are getting involved with it. Our software is crazy. And it comes down to, for me in closing, the end of the day, I get to deliver the most beautiful, gorgeous, branded garments for these companies that help elevate their brands. I get to be creative. I get to work in software. I get to have no ceiling on this thing. It's a global company. And I get to bless a lot of people's lives and give back. So I'm literally living in a dream. I pinch myself every day. I mean, uni to the moon for sure.
Love it.
We'll be $1 billion company. I guarantee it. 1,000%.
Bring on the eye rolls.
Hell or eye roll.
I love it, D. Where can people follow along as they want to see what you're up to?
Yeah, I don't do much on my personal brand. It's T. Dustin Williams, and then Uni Inc. is our new handle. We're gonna launch. Just look out for Uni. That's where basically that's where I'm going to be a majority of full time, seeing what I'm up to, showing that. So we're launching Q1 of 25. We've been building it for almost a year and a half now. So yeah, keep up with uni and you'll be keeping up with me.
Thanks for being here. Love you, man.
Dude, love you. Thanks for having me. I hope we added some value to some people today. So
Yeah.
grateful for it.
Thank you. A million ways to make $1 million.
Dad, are you sure you know what you're doing?